Struggling with leg cramps? Margaret's 7-day healing journey will inspire you. There's a kind of pain that jolts you awake in the middle of the night. It doesn't knock politely. It doesn't send a warning. It strikes, sudden, fierce, like a string pulled too tight until it snaps. Your muscles clench, your legs stiffen, and all you can do is let out a small, helpless whimper in the dark, your trembling hands desperately trying to soothe the pain. If you've ever had a nighttime cramp, you understand. It's not just the pain of a muscle spasm. It's the exhaustion, the silent anxiety creeping into your sleep. It's that terrible sense of helplessness, when your own body seems to betray you at your most vulnerable moment. Margaret knew that feeling all too well. At 74, she was still full of life, still loved her mornings among the flowers, still enjoyed walks with her friends, still lit up every time her little grandchildren came running into her arms. But lately, the cramps had changed everything. During the day, she could forget. But at night was the enemy. She became afraid to stretch her legs too comfortably, afraid to fall too deeply asleep. It felt as if she no longer had control over her own body. She tried everything. She drank more water. She stretched her legs carefully before bed. She even gave up her evening tea, worried that the caffeine might make things worse. But still, night after night, the pain returned. She would wake up, wincing, clutching her calf, wondering, will I have to endure this forever? One morning, as the soft sunlight poured through her kitchen window, Margaret sat at her table, absently turning a cold cup of tea in her hands. She let out a long sigh. She didn't want to live in fear anymore. She needed a solution. She began to dig deeper, leafing through old books, asking friends, searching for answers online. Margaret was determined to find something, anything, that could offer her a little peace. It was during one of those quiet mornings, with the soft glow of sunrise spilling across her kitchen table, that she stumbled upon a study. It spoke gently but clearly. Certain foods, rich in minerals like magnesium, potassium, and calcium, could help prevent leg cramps. It made perfect sense when she thought about it. Our bodies rely on these minerals to keep muscles working smoothly, like oil for an old beloved machine. Without enough of them, muscles can tighten, spasm, even rebel without warning. And the answer wasn't locked away in some rare herb or expensive supplement. It was far simpler and far closer to home. Bananas, soft and sweet, felt like nature's quiet gift, packed with potassium to stabilize muscle function. Spinach, fresh and green, rich in magnesium, the body's natural muscle relaxant. And Greek yogurt, creamy and smooth, delivering the calcium needed for nerves and muscles to dance in harmony once more. It was all right there, waiting for her. Waiting for a new beginning. Margaret thought for a long while. She didn't want anything complicated. She wanted something natural, something simple, something that could quietly become a daily habit. And so, she decided to try one small change. 7 days, 3 foods: bananas, spinach, and Greek yogurt. Of course, Margaret still enjoyed her regular meals. This little change wasn't about giving up everything she loved, but about gently inviting a few healing foods into her everyday life. Before starting, Margaret made sure to talk to her doctor, just to be sure. She explained her struggles with the cramps and her plan to try these foods. Her doctor nodded thoughtfully, reassured her that it could help, and reminded her that small changes can make a big difference over time. Bananas, soft and sweet, felt like little drops of sunshine in every bite. They weren't just tasty, they were nature's quiet gift, packed with potassium to help the muscles stay steady and calm. Margaret smiled as she peeled one each morning, feeling as if she were offering her body a small but powerful kindness. Spinach, fresh and green, had always been a familiar sight in her kitchen, but now she saw it with new eyes. Rich in magnesium, what some experts gently call the body's natural muscle relaxant, these tender leaves became a symbol of hope, tucked into her salads, stirred into warm soups, quietly weaving their healing touch into her day. And then there was Greek yogurt, creamy and smooth, cool against her tongue. Each spoonful brought not just comfort, but calcium, whispering strength into the very nerves and muscles that once betrayed her sleep. It was simple, it was natural, and somehow it felt like beginning again. She wasn't expecting miracles. She wasn't looking for a magic cure. She simply wanted to see if a small change might make a difference. On the first day, Margaret added a banana to her morning oatmeal. At lunch, she tossed a handful of fresh spinach into her salad. At bedtime, she savored a small bowl of Greek yogurt with a drizzle of honey. She closed her eyes and listened to her body. That night, the cramps still came. But something was different. It wasn't as sharp. It didn't force her to bolt upright, biting her lip against the pain. It was just a brief spasm, then it passed. By the third night, she noticed she had slept deeper. The pain no longer yanked her from her dreams. The next morning, she woke up feeling strangely refreshed. It had been a long time since her legs didn't feel tired upon waking. By the fifth day, sitting on her porch sipping tea, she realized she hadn't thought about the cramps at all. They no longer haunted her as darkness fell. Of course, it wasn't a miracle. She still stretched every day, still drank plenty of water, still paid attention to her body. But one truth became clear to her. Sometimes, the smallest changes create the biggest differences. She no longer felt powerless in her own body. She realized that self-care didn't have to be complicated. It could begin with something simple: a banana in the morning, a handful of greens at lunch, a bowl of yogurt before bed. And Margaret wasn't alone. Studies published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that magnesium supplementation can reduce cramps in older adults. Research from Muscle and Nerve confirms that low potassium levels can lead to uncontrollable muscle spasms. These weren't distant theories. They were real needs of real bodies. One morning, on the 6th day of her quiet little journey, Margaret did something unexpected. She stood before her bedroom mirror and looked at her legs. The faint scars, the faded bruises, marks of a life fully lived. And softly, as if speaking to an old friend, she whispered, "Thank you. Thank you to the legs that had carried her down so many roads. Through years of raising children, through rainy afternoons picking up her grandkids from school, through long nights caring for a sick husband." She realized she had spent so much time noticing the betrayals, the pain, that she had forgotten all the countless ways her body had been faithful, strong, and steady. Maybe the greatest gift from those 7 days wasn't just quieter nights. It was reconciliation. It was forgiveness. It was an invisible embrace for a body that had walked faithfully beside her for decades. Margaret didn't just change her diet. She changed how she saw herself. No longer a tired old body. No longer aching legs. But a faithful companion. One that just needed a little more kindness. A little more love. And you know, a study from Yale once showed that the way we think about our bodies as we age affects our health directly. Those who view their bodies with gratitude and care tend to live longer and stay healthier, not because they're younger, but because they treat themselves like a beloved friend, not an enemy. Maybe, as you listen to Margaret's story, you find yourself thinking, "I'm tired of the pain too. I want a little peace." If so, try. Not necessarily Margaret's 3 foods. Maybe just a warm glass of water in the morning, a self-hug when you wake, a quiet minute listening to your breath. We cannot stop time, but we can choose how we move through it. And maybe just like Margaret, you'll find not just health, but a new conversation with yourself. A conversation filled with tenderness. 7 days later, Margaret wasn't just feeling better. She felt stronger. She was no longer a woman afraid of the dark. She was herself again, vibrant, full of love, ready to savor every moment life had to offer. Margaret's story isn't just about cramps. It's about listening to yourself, about honoring your body even as it changes with time, about believing that caring for yourself doesn't have to be grand. It can be the small, loving things you do every day. And maybe tonight, as you lay your head down to rest, you can choose a small change too. A simple thing, a reminder that you deserve to feel well, to move freely, to cherish yourself, because you truly, truly do.